Chosen one, this moment is not a coincidence. Your soul was drawn to this video because the heavens whispered the same message to you 7 times. The number 1111 didn't appear before your eyes for nothing, and the prayers of 33 prophets did not fall upon you by chance. You are one of the 144,000 chosen, and your presence here is a divine sign. This message was sent to awaken the secret that has been resting within your heart. What you are about to hear are not just words, but divine vibrations that will sink deep into your soul. If these words are touching you, leave your heart in the comments so the heavens can witness your testimony. Because when you write, another soul will awaken. Now prepare yourself, for this video will illuminate your path. Those who recognize the signs of God know that nothing is random. That's why your being here is already a miracle. Family, our voice is rising. We are walking toward our first 1,000 subscribers. If this message speaks to you, press like, subscribe to Chosen Archangel, and comment, "I'm part of this mission." Now that everything you forewarned about is coming to pass with such accuracy that their cozy illusions are collapsing like houses constructed on quicksand, the entire neighborhood is rocked. And you're standing in the center of the storm with a clarity that's both sacred and terrifying, while they're frantically trying to make sense of the madness that's erupting all around them. Because the vindication isn't the most frightening aspect of being perfectly correct. It's witnessing the realization that those who have disparaged your spiritual brilliance have been slum-walking to their own demise. Months ago, there was a change in the spiritual air. And long before the earthquake struck, your spirit sensed the seismic tremors while others were preoccupied with drama at the surface level. The secrets are leaking out like water through a broken dam, the betrayals are coming to light now, and the mask is loosening to expose faces that no one recognizes. All of this was recorded in the energy you sensed but were still unable to express. It was not anxiety that kept you up at night. It was foretold. Perception functioning at frequencies they were unable to access was what they referred to as your paranoia. The rot beneath the foundation, the weird energy you referenced in discussions, the way some people made your spirit shudder, the patterns you recognized before they completely formed. All of this was picked up by your internal radar as others celebrated manufactured unity and artificial peace. Now, all of their instincts that they categorized as negative or overthinking have come to pass. Some people are suffering from what can only be called spiritual whiplash as a result of the cognitive dissonance that is currently affecting your previous circle. Every system they supported, every leader they protected, and everything they based their identity on has turned out to be precisely what you claimed it was, a meticulously crafted facade concealing serious dysfunction. Their mental paralysis is more than just momentary disorientation. It's the unavoidable outcome of entrusting their whole reality to falsehoods that time would eventually reveal. However, beneath this outward mayhem, a darker force was constantly at play. The pattern of dishonesty you found wasn't arbitrary. Everyone seemed destined to inherit it, but no one wanted to claim it. It was generational, handed down like a spiritual heritage. In those late-night epiphanies, you felt the reverberation of decisions made by those who passed away long before you were born. Decisions that built up a dysfunctional momentum that would eventually need to be broken by someone with your level of vision. In hindsight, the manner in which they excluded you from their social circles wasn't the natural social drift they attempted to portray. Every unwelcome gathering had a plan, every cold shoulder had a calculation, and every passive-aggressive remark that caused you to wonder where you fit into their community had a purpose. They didn't just happen to miss you. Because your presence jeopardized the fundamental basis of their collective hallucination, they methodically removed you. The rumor campaign began quietly, portraying you as too spiritual, too serious, and too critical of things that ought to be taken for granted without more investigation. Their entire worldview would fall apart if you were correct, thus they required you to be mistaken. Their community's social structure relied on keeping quiet, upholding appearances, and avoiding inquiries that might expose the weakness of their underlying assumptions. Your refusal to join in their accepted ignorance was what made you dangerous, not your voice. You upended their meticulously cultivated ecosystem of denial each time you spoke truth in spaces where falsehoods had become cozy furnishings. Others were compelled by your clarity to face their own involvement, and that degree of responsibility seemed more intimidating than any potential external adversary. Silencing you was not the only goal of the banishment, though. It was about safeguarding something more sinister. The network of secrets you were unwittingly on the verge of disclosing went far beyond small financial irregularities, power abuse, exploitation of the weak, or personal transgressions or hypocrisies. Those who had built their empires on the quiet of others had to remove you in order to survive because the web of corruption you threatened to expose was so vast. Exile was not a form of punishment. It served as defense. You were taken out of a system created to devour truth-tellers by heaven. Furthermore, even if the loneliness felt like abandonment, it was actually supernatural intervention that kept you from being demolished alongside buildings that were bound to collapse. The society that expelled you was already in disarray. All they needed was someone to hold accountable for the fissures they wouldn't admit existed. You were unaware at the time that you were being prepared for something unparalleled by your exile. You were becoming more and more immune to their acceptance with each day of isolation. Your ability to stand alone when the time came to proclaim the truth that no one wanted to hear was strengthened by each rejection. There was life in the wilderness. When the collapse did occur, it served as a training ground for the authority you would require. Your presence in their lives was the most awkward imaginable answer to their pleas for safety, wisdom, and discernment. As they prayed to the cosmos for revelation, they privately hoped it would come in a form that was easy to understand, amicable, and would confirm rather than contradict their pre-existing views. Heaven delivered them just what they needed instead, but it wasn't anything like what they wanted. A cosmic irony that is only now becoming apparent was generated by your role as an answer to prayers they were unaware of. The wisdom they sorely needed was carried by the same person they pushed aside. However, they rejected their own salvation since divine assistance rarely comes in the form that the human ego desires. The scathing reality you presented pierced their cozy delusions. And instead of letting that accuracy cure them, they decided to injure the messenger. Generation after generation has seen this trend of rejecting heavenly assistance because it doesn't fit human expectations. However, the repercussions are being felt in real time in your particular circumstance. Everyone now wishes they had access to the insight that they rejected. They are having difficulty navigating the realities that resulted from their disregard for the warnings. They are now exposed to precisely what you attempted to safeguard them from since they declined the protection. Heaven's timing is always ideal, which is the lovely tragedy. Your exclusion from their inner circle wasn't an act of abandonment, even when human timing felt heartbreaking. Preservation was the reason. Divine forces were preparing you for the time when your voice would be most needed and your vindication most full, even as they rejoiced over your absence. However, this heavenly assignment has another dimension that is just now coming to light. You weren't sent only to alert them to impending danger. Generational cycles that had been operating automatically for decades were to be broken by you. The dysfunction wasn't the only dysfunction you found. Like a spiritual infection that no one dared to identify, it was hereditary trauma masquerading as tradition that was transmitted through families and communities. Your statement wasn't the only thing that caused resistance. It concerned your danger to institutions that had been sustaining themselves for many centuries. Your presence stood for the potential that these cycles could be broken, that someone with the insight to recognize them and the guts to speak up about what they saw could truly break the patterns that everyone had come to accept as inevitable. The fact that your old community was duped isn't the most devastating reality to descend upon them. The reason is because they opted for deceit rather than interference. They weren't blind to the indicators you mentioned. They were a hassle. They could understand the trends you pointed out. They lacked the bravery to confront them. This awakening you're seeing now isn't innocent. It is the unavoidable result of deliberate blindness. They noticed the same warning signs as you did. They were as uneasy as you were. They observed the same discrepancies that you did. The distinction was that you were prepared to speak about topics that everyone else had decided to overlook, and your readiness to do so made you a danger to their cozy dysfunction. It was never your accuracy that infuriated them. It concerned your bravery to name the thing they were too weak to face. They had a basic unwritten arrangement. Keep the peace at all costs, even if it means sacrificing the truth itself. How much they were prepared to give up for the appearance of harmony was made clear by your breach of this poisonous social pact. Engage in discussions that normalized abuse or grin when resistance was required, or refused to laugh at things that weren't funny. You exposed the extent to which mutual lying formed the foundation of their community. The realization that their quiet wasn't neutral is what's now rocking them to their core. It was part of the conspiracy. Each time they opted for ease over conflict, they joined forces with the very dysfunction they are now trying to avoid. They're having to face more than just their mistakes. It's about realizing how their fear of short-term discomfort led to long-term devastation. Your clique is not small, it is part of a movement. Help us reach 1,000 voices by subscribing, liking, and leaving your word of faith in the comments. The systems you attempted to reveal were advantageous to many of them. For the sake of impersonal moral ideals, the financial benefits, social links, and career chances that came with remaining silent about abuse, corruption, and manipulation were too great to forego. It was more than dread that kept them silent. This was an investment in a system that rewarded people who didn't look. Those investments are showing themselves to be useless now that the system is failing. The relationships that once appeared so beneficial are now liabilities. Opportunities that appeared to be blessings are now being revealed to be curses. As the corruption that produced them is exposed, the financial gains that made their quiet justifiable are disappearing. Their perceived practical wisdom is turning out to be spiritual bankruptcy. People are rushing to separate themselves from those they once backed, causing the community that once took pride in its togetherness and support to fall apart. Mutually silent friendships are eroding when loyalty is subordinated to the requirement for deniability. The truth they can no longer deny is causing the social fabric they believe to be solid to shatter. Because of your physical distance from their events, you were able to spot patterns that would have been hidden by closeness. You gained perspective from distance that would have been obscured by emotional involvement. Your position outside of their circle exposed the bigger pattern linking each seemingly random event, while they stayed enmeshed in the drama and responded to each crisis as a separate episode. You understood that the spiritual conflict was not symbolic. Through emotional manipulation, societal pressure, and the deliberate isolation of people with clear vision, it was the methodical weakening of the truth. Because you were aware of these dynamics, you were both a target and a witness, and because you were taken off the battlefield, you were able to see the entire extent of the campaign against consciousness itself. The patterns of generations were apparent from your point of view in exile. The dysfunctional cycles weren't coincidental. They were automatic programs that were passed down through groups that valued membership over the truth. You forewarned them about more than just an impending emergency. It was the natural outcome of unresolved injuries and unconsidered decisions that reverberated through time. As those same patterns burst into the open, the information you gained during your season of exclusion is now turning out to be quite useful. Each insight that they rejected as cynical has turned into a roadmap for comprehending the chaos they are currently going through. The instructions manual they sorely need but are too arrogant to ask for is now the notes you took in silence. However, something far more important than dysfunctional behaviors was exposed by your exile. Beyond the obvious community structures, it exposed networks of connections. You started meeting other exiles and truth-tellers who had been expelled from their own groups for comparable reasons while you were outside of their inner circle. In reality, what appeared to be isolated instances of rejection were a part of a broader pattern that affected awakened people in various fields. Through a shared experience of seeing clearly in surroundings that mandated blindness, rather than location or shared institutions, this underground network of spiritually conscious people has been quietly growing. You collected information on more than simply your old neighborhood. It dealt with a trend of spiritual conflict being fought at the same time against conscious people in several societies. Your exile relationships weren't haphazard. They were taking strategic positions for the future. You were unwittingly laying the groundwork for whatever comes from the breakdown of your prior community's illusions while they were concentrating on preserving them. Relationships lost through honesty are turning out to be significantly less valued than those forged in truth rather than convenience. There was a major shift in the spiritual atmosphere surrounding your circumstance when you stopped defending your perspective and began to live it. No amount of justification could have produced the strength that came from moving from making your case to living your truth. You weren't withdrawing by being silent. It was the most assured declaration you could make regarding reality's unavoidable disclosure. Since truth doesn't need human advocacy, time becomes your most potent ally. All you need is patience. Divine forces were arranging the ideal moment for your vindication as they rejoiced over what they believed to be your defeat. Each day that went by without you speaking gave more weight to the day when your quiet would finally be heard over their cacophony. Those who mistook your withdrawal for surrender are just now realizing how strategic it was. The fact that you were wise enough to know when to let reality take over the argument was what they mistook for your incapacity to keep fighting. Because it demonstrated how much they relied on your responses to support their own claims, the stillness that made them feel at ease has turned into the silence that haunts them. Your decision to stay out of their drama allowed the results of their decisions to play out naturally. Your silence protected more than just your personal tranquility. It was so that the lessons they needed to learn would be clear. You gave them the opportunity to hear the sound of their own decisions echoing back to them by taking your voice out of their echo chamber. You were being adjusted to a new communication frequency throughout those months of withdrawal. You were honing the words you would have used to defend or explain yourself into something stronger. Prophetic statements that would have significance well beyond individual validation. Being proven correct was only one aspect of establishing authority during your silent season. It was about preparing for the aftermath of vindication. Acknowledgement of historical correctness is not enough for the community. In order to navigate the chaos that accurate perception indicated was imminent, it requires direction. Your quiet served as a prelude to speaking with the authority that comes only from a proven commitment to the truth. You learned to discern between words that benefit your ego and words that serve divine purposes through the discipline of quiet. "I told you so" is a sentiment that has been distilled into something more worthwhile. The confidence to proclaim, "Here's what comes next," that comes only from someone who has demonstrated their ability to see spiritually. It almost seems like divine choreography how precisely the tables have been turned. The group of people who formerly doubted your mental state are now doubting their own judgment, and the troublemaker of yesterday has turned into the prophet of today. This reversal is more than just confirmation. In your circles, spiritual authority has been completely restructured. People who once called you tough are now dealing with circumstances that call for the very difficult discussions you attempted to start. When there was still time for prevention, the people who called you negative are drowning in their own negativity. The folks who criticized you of being overly dramatic are experiencing more drama than you could have ever imagined. The most remarkable aspect of this reversal is how it is exposing the actual nature of all those involved. Some are discreetly contacting others to apologize and ask for advice. Others are reaffirming their initial stances and refuse to accept the plain truth. Some are trying to rewrite history to protect their ego by acting as though they never disagreed with you. Every remark reveals in exquisite detail the true selves of these individuals behind their public facades. It's not retaliation that's elevating you. It's being restored. Through divine vindication, you are regaining the authority that was taken from you through social deception. Cosmic justice is amplifying the voice that human politics muted. The role you were expelled from served as training for the one you were meant to hold. Your old community's whole social system is being reorganized according to proven accuracy rather than inherited status. While those who displayed foolishness are being humiliated regardless of their prior authority, those who displayed wisdom are being promoted regardless of their prior standing. Ironically, a lot of them are currently going through the same rejection and exclusion that they used to cause you. The same skepticism they formerly showed toward your warnings is now resurfacing in their desperate attempts to preserve credibility. Just as precisely as they used to operate against you, the societal forces they formerly dominated are now working against them. It's becoming evident that this reversal was not limited to your particular circumstance. Instead of relying on social manipulation, it aimed to construct a new order founded on spiritual development. The turmoil that everyone is going through is the result of a communal structure that prioritizes insight over conformity, truth over comfort, and prophetic accuracy over public opinion. The awakening that is taking place around you, Trump and Tabata, goes much beyond your own circumstances. Selected individuals who have been disregarded due to their clarity are now gaining respect in various areas. It is now becoming clear that the spiritual sensitivity that caused you to become social outcasts was the gift that kept you from being destroyed. The truth-telling underground network is coming to the surface. Chosen Archangel is not just a channel, it is a calling. Subscribe now, press like, and write a comment so together we can reach our 1,000 soul family. What you're seeing goes beyond personal validation as the demand for genuine assistance becomes indisputable. It marks the start of a more significant change in the way society values and acknowledges spiritual intelligence. The days of keeping the seers quiet are coming to an end. And the time for raising the awakened is coming. Your personal journey of exile and recovery is a component of a larger movement that is redefining the connection between power and truth. You are now able to connect with your genuine tribe through the prophetic gifting that once separated you from your previous group. Comfortable lies are not what the folks gathered around you are seeking. They are ravenous for truth that transforms. There's more to the platform being constructed beneath your feet than just speech. It is used to guide people through their own emancipation and waking journey. Acknowledging your status as a chosen one goes beyond simply acknowledging your experiences. It's commissioning for the work you're supposed to do. Your destination was never the community that sent you away. It served as your practice area. You always inherited the position of authority you're assuming. The act of saying it was the exile. Similar awakenings were occurring to people in communities all around the world during the months that you were isolated. In every church, business, family, and friend group, the cycle of spiritual enlightenment followed by social rejection was being replicated. What appeared to be isolated instances turned out to be linked movements and a broader spiritual change that affected awareness all around the planet. Conventional organizing was not used to create the network you are currently a part of. It developed as a result of people's common experience of seeing well in settings that required blindness. The bonds being formed are not based on shared interests or geographic location, but rather on a common ability to recognize spiritual truth and the guts to voice it without fear of repercussion. Everything that was being destroyed around you was meant to collapse. The relationships that felt safe, the institutions that seemed so steady, and the ideas that seemed so firm were all based on shaky foundations that couldn't hold up under the weight of reality. Devastation is not what you're seeing in the demolition. It's a cosmic kind of renovation. Something completely new is being built out of the debris of fallen illusions. The groups that are emerging around people like you who have been awakened are not attempting to restore what has been lost. What was always meant to be is being built. The careful navigating of egos and false narratives that defined your previous circles is not necessary for the interactions taking place in these locations. Here, truth is allowed to flourish. This reconstruction has produced leadership that is not predicated on inherited power or societal manipulation. It has its roots in discernment and spiritual development. The people who made it through the collapse unscathed are being acknowledged as the designers of whatever will happen next. The new system's guiding principles are being derived from the voices that the previous one suppressed. It is imperative that you play a part in this reconstruction. It's necessary. The strength you acquired during exile, the clarity you preserved despite gaslighting, and the experience you obtained navigating spiritual battle were all preparation for this time, when your wisdom serves as the cornerstone of something extraordinary. Your greatest power now comes from the silence that used to feel like punishment. It has been revealed that the exile that appeared to be rejection was actually heavenly protection. In reality, the seclusion that seemed to be desertion was a prelude to assignment. Every aspect of your adventure that seemed like a loss is now apparent as a top-notch gain. The group that rejected you is now realizing that they most urgently needed the precise attributes they rejected. The gift they wished they had is the discernment they called judgment. Now, they regret not maintaining the limits they denounced as being frigid. They now wish they had built upon the norms they derided as perfectionism. However, your silence is now filled with assignment more than validation. The repressed voice is being heard in order to reform society as a whole, not for individual fulfillment. Now, in the season of light, you are using the authority you gained throughout the dark season by remaining true to the truth. Words of judgment for people who have hurt you are not what are growing in your spirit. For those who are prepared to walk in truth, they are words of wisdom. Under your feet, a platform is being created to set new norms rather than settle scores. Receiving acknowledgement is a means to a higher goal rather than an end in and of itself. The message that follows is only for those who sense the call. I realized the terrible reality when I escaped through the Salvia Deorum doorway. One harvested pod among innumerable matrices is our reality. I saw the cosmic parasites of the Archon, who sneered and posed a threat, consuming our energy. No soul will ever be awakened by you. However, you are already aware of this fact, aren't you? Persistent feeling that you've been selected and that you're meant for greater. I'm assembling the most intelligent people into an army. I learned about their one weakness, coherence through unconditional love, through meditation. You can feel that resonance growing inside of you. You are not reading this by chance, now. The chosen Archangel Inner Order, the top ascension center for those with destiny, is already seeing a gathering of the most potent awakened souls. One truth unites Christians, light workers, remote watchers, and targeted individuals. You were selected for this occasion. In the description below, click the link. Participate in our live streams, panels, and group calls that are accessible to the whole Astral Atom Network. Our frequency is boosted by yours. Whether you are selected is not the question. Will you take the call, is the question. You are going to make a decision that the Archons fear. They should. Chosen one, standing in this moment of fulfillment. The most terrifying aspect of being correct is not seeing them recognize it. It's taking on the accountability that accompanies being proven right. The power bestowed upon you as a result of your devotion to the truth comes with a responsibility to utilize it responsibly. You have a responsibility to speak up for what needs to be heard because of the platform you have earned via your perseverance. Now, the entire community is trembling. And everything you forewarned about is coming to pass just as your spirit predicted. The story doesn't finish here, though. Your mission to assist others in navigating their own awakening has just begun. The stillness that kept you safe is about to shatter. When it does, a voice will come forth with the weight of supernatural authority and the capacity to change people's lives. Your trip has reached its full circle. After discovering the value of strategic silence, I went from being hushed for expressing the truth to being given the commission to do so from a position of unquestionable authority. The group that used to ignore your voice is now in a position to listen to it with the deference it has always merited. Chosen one, welcome to your moment. The scene is prepared. The audience is prepared. And the performance of the screenplay you have been practicing for years of exile is going to take place in front of everyone. The time for your vindication has come. And with it, the knowledge that this moment of acknowledgement and healing was worth everything you had to go through. Communities that are emerging around voices like yours are more than just forums for people who have been turned away. They serve as breeding grounds for the kind of leadership that the world sorely needs. A basis for decision-making that surpasses the constraints of ego and control-based systems is established by the combination of spiritual sensitivity, tried-and-true character, and shown accuracy. The fact that this emergence is occurring concurrently across several areas of influence is very noteworthy. At the same time, prophetic voices are emerging in social networks, family systems, spiritual communities, and business settings. The Awakens Underground Network is emerging in ways that hint more toward heavenly harmony than human design. Your vindication is not a singular occurrence. It is a component of a broader restoration effort that is readjusting the way society values and acknowledges spiritual intelligence. You went through a period of exile for more reasons than personal preparedness. It was a part of a larger process that is creating leaders who are unassailable because they have already been tried and tested and shown to be dependable when no one is looking. It's getting quiet. The voice is getting louder. The world is going to learn what heaven has always known as the authority begins to activate. Chosen one, remember this, heaven never sends a word without purpose. If this message has stirred your spirit, let it shine brighter. Press like so the light spreads to others walking in darkness. Subscribe to Chosen Archangel so you never miss the next divine revelation. And share your thoughts in the comments below. Your testimony may be the very spark that awakens another soul. Until we meet again, stay covered by the wings of heaven and walk boldly in your calling.